was doing weight training and ended up meeting a bodybuilder, a famous bodybuilder. I was going to do a natural bodybuilding show. Right before it happened, I ended up getting sick and ended up in the hospital. I damaged a nerve in my brain.
What?
So it was like kind of like like how you get your funny bone.
Yeah.
That's, you know.
And you felt that in your brain.
Yeah, the nerve runs all the way down here, controls your organs, this, that, and the other. So when I was just kind of like, my parents didn't have it. When I was growing up, wasn't there. I need to know something that I'm not knowing, because I did all of that because I didn't have any love. I didn't love myself. I did all that because I didn't know what love for me was. It's not like I didn't know who I was, it was just more like I didn't know me to love me. So you grow up because we have imperfect parents, and we have imperfect environment, and usually we hide these things, you know, to just go on with life as if it's a practical thing. We just hide them. So eventually it just gets to a point where you actually abuse yourself to the point where you're like, I need something, and it's not here, and it's not in no one, and it's not in me. And so all of that, just education wasn't doing it, the knowledge of the people around me wasn't doing it. There's nothing in this world that's capable of nourishing what's in me. So I said, the religions out here are trash, and there's something that you need to. There's something that you know exists in you, because this is what we innately have. We're innately creators and creating, inventors and inventing, and that's not in me for an accident. I didn't put that in me. I didn't develop it in me mysteriously. So I just sat down and said, I need help. So that at the hospital, I couldn't move. I mean, I could move, but anything I did would just make my heart react. Like, I couldn't legit, I was in bed for like a year or so. I picked up the Bible and just started studying it. And so that is what allowed me to know that the God of the Bible is the living God, because I went to the hospital. They said they would just give me heart surgery, but they said it wouldn't help. So I said, all right, I never went back. So I spent many nights like going to sleep, feeling my heart pushing blood through its, you know, arteries, and just giving myself that necessary feedback that if you will help me, help me. And that's where my faith and my trust began. I would put my life into that, into his hands. From that point, I started studying and developing more and putting into rhythm what the principles that he was teaching was doing, and it was actually beneficial, And you begin to see a separation from the God of the Bible, from the gods of the many imaginations that are out here. So as I implemented it, I began writing this book, not even as a book. This is more like experimental experiments, chapters of experiments, but proven experiments. And that's how this came to be. Like, I didn't have any intention of giving it out to anyone. It was just like, I need to know this, I need to write. And it was just like, for me, it was kind of like how, you know, how David said, the hand of the Lord was upon me in my writing, he made me know all of this. So just like how it happened to David, it happened to me. And I just kept on learning and writing and doing, learning, writing, and doing, failing, fighting myself for not doing it correctly, learning how to do it correctly, and redoing it, and just coming into a better knowledge of what is actually our point here.
Wow. That's a very, you know, it seems like it was a very big turning point in your life when you went, you know, from the hospital bed and beyond. You know, just on the question of, you know, since I see a lot of your research came from the Bible, what were some of your, I guess, favorite stories or some of your favorite heroes from the Bible, would you say?
I'll say Samson.
Samson?
Because Samson is there to teach us about bad parenting. Samson is a subject of what can happen when parents don't educate their children. Because Samson was a male whore. And you know,
I like
but at the same time, God never left him.
Right.
Because first of all, it wasn't his fault. When it became his fault, that's when it says he was not that the Lord departed from him.
He allowed himself to be put in that position.
His parents were the ones that were supposed to bring him up. They received the instruction, but because they were imperfect within themselves, they didn't get to, do it. This is why Samson would go, "Hey, pops, I want this woman. Get her for me."
Right.
And parents can say, "Listen, you don't want anyone from among your own people. I want this woman. Get her for me." But he had something in his heart that was put in there by God to fulfill a mission. So at the same time, good can't come from bad, because his parents, although they may have failed to actually do what was doing, he actually accomplished a great will within himself.
Right.
So Samson is a story that is written that I think is great because we are human. And at the same time, we are not simply just human. I mean, that sounds bad. I mean, we're human, but with a will. We have a will, and we each have a mission. That's what I mean. Like, we have a mission. And it might not be apparent, it might not be seen, but the more that we open up our hearts to what we might be able to be capable of, and to do so with right instruction, we can get to that point. Because Samson, to fulfill his mission, committed suicide.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that suicide is anything bad, but suicide, the lesson isn't physical or literal.
Right. It shows the will that he had. He was going to complete his mission whether he, or die trying.
Yeah, whatever he accomplished physically, but the lesson is for us internally. We have to destroy the pillars holding our hearts and the irrational host cheering us on inside of our own hearts. We have to destroy those pillars ourselves, just like he physically did it. We have to do it mentally.
Wow. So you definitely seem like you've been writing poetry for a long time, because you just applied what happened in that story into a metaphysical, spiritual description. That's amazing. Do you have anything as far as your poetry out right now too as well?
No. It's been a book that's been finished, but it hasn't been edited perfectly. So I'm hoping to, but it's still sitting.
Yeah. What are some of the the subjects that you have touched upon in your literature over time?
My complete
Literature.
Poetry and
poetry and your books as well. Besides, I know, of course, spirituality, but anything else.
The main subject is, I want to say self-love, but it's above self-love. True self-love is self-possession. True self-love is self-possession. If you can possess you, you can control you. And we are naturally uncontrollable, even to our own selves. What we think we know we like, we actually don't like. What we think we want to do, we actually don't want to do it. But we continue to do it because we think it's what we want to do. We are naturally uncontrollable. And my hope, or everything that I write about, is self-possession for self-possession for correct self-ambition. And the ambition from self-possession will always react externally on the environment. And the people around in the environment also.
Right. Rather than it being the opposite of them influencing you, because I remember you did speak about that within your book. Certain people, sometimes you have preferences or missions or things that you take upon yourself that are not really coming from you, but from the outside.
It's like an influence. Like, you're supposed to be doing this because you're supposed to be doing it, or you're doing it because you want to gain something from it.
Very true.
So, just to reverse that, self-development for self-possession to better affect the selves of others.
That's amazing.
That's my main thing.
So just like goes to show the age-old saying, if we can't change the world, we can't change ourselves.
It begins with us.
It begins with us.
I am the change.
And of course the book is about perfecting and reforming. How does somebody who's coming in with the mindset they've been in religion for a long time, they've been going to church for a long time, what do you think are some reactions that people with those type of mentalities have when they approach your book?
Well, one of the mentalities is that I hear often is, I don't need to study scripture. I already have knowledge in me because God gave us His Spirit, and so I already have knowledge. I don't need to study scripture. We don't need to study that. I don't need to hear it. I already got what I got. I am it. But when I examine these people, just cut them down, you realize that all they are is a tradition and a self-perceived notion with a mind-inflicted policy. That's all it is. There's no fact, there's no science behind it.
Could you dive deeper into that, especially that mind-inflicted policy?
A mind-inflicted policy is a policy of self-belief without proof. It's, I do what I do, but when you're actually doing it, you're not actually perceiving the right image. As you're saying, I keep Bible principles, in reality, you're seeing your mother or your father. In reality,
that's what they've been doing.
In reality, you're seeing some man in a suit.
Every Sunday in front of your church.
So in reality, you're not following Bible principles. In reality, you may say, I love this, or you may say, I'm a deep person. You may say, I love me some Jesus, but in reality, your Jesus is really self. Your Jesus is really your mother and your father's beliefs. Your Jesus is really this, that, and the other. That's why many people say, or think, I don't like God, I don't like this or that, the other. It's not that they don't like God, it's not that they don't believe God doesn't exist. The God of their parents they can't stand. Because they have sense. They can see that what their parents are doing is absolute trash. So my thing is, fine, you see that it's trash, and God doesn't exist. You've come to that rationality. And if you've come to that rationality thus far, why don't you have enough mind to dig deeper personally? So that you can actually understand what is actually, going on in you, the conflict that you have in you. So to someone that, perfectly reformed personal religion, it's a challenge to admit that I don't have any religion. As many times as I'm up in a church, or as many times I see ministers on my laptop screen, or as many times as I'm doing this, that, and the other, it's a tough thing to say I don't have any religion. It's a tough thing to say that I am not spiritual, because I wear this thing around my neck, and I hold this thing in my hand when I pray, and I believe that I'm this, that, and the other. It's hard to say that I am just following a tradition. And
something that you, as a person, you don't want to admit it to yourself sometimes, I guess.
And one of the things in Peter, 1 Peter 1:18, nothing, you are not redeemed from your vain conversation received by tradition, is what is written. Those words, literally. Because in Peter's day, what was going on today was going on in his day. He was counseling Gentiles, for Gentiles or individuals that were not Jews. These were individuals that, they did the idols in the house, in the front of the house, in the family room, in the hand and around the neck, and all this other and whatnot, and they were trying to do that with what the apostles were teaching. And they were trying to, at this time, a new religion was coming about. And it was side by side with the apostles, and he was just, counseling, this isn't what it's about. You have to abandon your tradition. And that's what he taught, and that's also what Christ taught, and that's also what the living God taught from Genesis on. Nothing is physical. Tradition is physical.
Right.
What you might believe is spiritual is actually you physically saying, wow, I can discern this. I can actually receive this to a certain point and cut it up, and I'm going to just run with it. But there's a lot more depth to the heart, because as human beings, we're created to think.
Right.
We're thinking and feeling creatures. When you strip yourself down to a tradition, you're molesting your own heart.
Wow.
The reason our educational institution fails is not because, of the students. It's because our content is based on memorization. We don't test people for what they know. We test people for what they can memorize. So when the student isn't keeping up with what can be memorized, they think that there's a problem with the student. All of a sudden, little boys got ADD or something like that, when that's not even the case. The case is every mind doesn't work like that, and true learning is creative. If you can allow the mind space to not just think about what's going on, but to also rationalize, and from that rationalization develop their own perception of what is being spoken and what is being thought on, what is going to be learned is going to cut deeper into the heart, because it doesn't just connect with what's going on in the classroom. It connects with what's going on with the student outside of the classroom in their own home. So bringing all of those experiences, every single one of those experiences into the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And the classroom, my perspective is, well, for what I'm doing, the classroom is basically the life. There's, without any being tied down to any tradition, you have room to fail, and you have room to experience pain, which is what tradition covers. Tradition doesn't allow you to feel any pain because you know what's going on. It's a predetermined outcome is what tradition is, and that's not what true learning is. True learning is not predetermined. True learning is an outcome based upon failures. And from those failures determining what works best so that you can purge with what doesn't work best so that you can then develop a perspective that is not just internal, but that can fuel you externally for your work in whatever your talent, skill may be for the environment, the better society. That's what I'm trying to get across, true education. And because self can only educate self so much, and because we can only teach ourselves so much and motivate ourselves so much, we need something more than what that much is, and that much is getting back to the principles of Eden.
Right. Yeah, that brings me to another point. Running, metaphor along the course of the book was a spiritual diet. What really brought that about, and can you explain more of that to the people so they can understand?
Basically, what we think we are, what we think we actually act out, and the diet basically is more of an back to self-possession, controlling the thoughts to better influence the feelings to act more soberly. And we can only do so much by saying, for example, no one's going to make you do this, that, or the other. No one's going to make you do this, that, and the other. You have to motivate yourself to do this. Get a goal, get a passion, do this, that, and the other. But you're doing this all by self, and that's fine, but self is going to fatigue. Self is going to fatigue because that's self doesn't have it in self to rise above self. We need a better strength, and that better strength is given to us by the living God. The entire point of his ministers or son's sacrifice was to open up a door for us to receive health for our being that we don't naturally possess. That is not given to us, which is where the error of tradition falls into, because you look at the sacrifice, you think everything is done.
Right.
But
the work's only just started.
Yeah. That's just the beginning. When it said, for example, it is finished, it was finished on earth. What really happened was just a door opening up on earth to reach up into God's throne. Literally, there is a church, and in that church is a throne, and the throne is the Creator. What Christ did on earth did not fulfill anything. We fulfill it. He fulfilled his part. We have to allow our hearts to extend upwards. If we don't do that, we won't receive any kind of benefit for self. So this book, Perfecting and Reforming Personal Religion, it's cool that, on a surface level, you may say, I'm this, that, and the other, but that's not the end of the matter. That was just the beginning. It is finished, he said, yes. The goal or the opportunity to open up to human beings to develop what is in them, because there's a law in us. I'll just say we're living souls. We're living souls. This doesn't mean that we're breathing people. Living has a definition.
Right.
Human beings come from the earth, and just like the animals, we're just like the animals. The animals are called living creatures. To be living means that there is an innate course within us to do for self, to care for self, to protect territory, and to do all things for self. This is what is in the animal. But we're not just animals, we're also souls. And to have a soul means that we're benevolent. We're benevolent creatures. We care to actually help other people. We care for the good of other people. So whether it's, for example, releasing technology, we think that this will be good for someone. Whatever we think we will help someone, we will do it. The thing is that sometimes our help is deleterious and injurious to the people that we're trying to help.
Could you say those words again? Dang. What were those words?
Because we're living souls, because we also are creatures, living creatures,
Mm-hmm.
innately prone to care for self, but at the same time caring for others.
Mm-hmm.
The things that we would care to do for others are naturally deleterious or injurious to the other people.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that what we're trying to do, even though I wanna help you,
Mm-hmm.
I wanna help you. I wanna put you in the best position. I wanna do this, that, and the other for you. But what you're not seeing is my heart. And in my heart, I wanna help you because it's gonna make me look good. You don't know I wanna help you because I just wanna get a cut of what I'm gonna make from you. I'm just gonna pretend you're this, that, and the other to me so that I can get this, that, and the other from you.
Mm-hmm.
I look good, I get more, you get more. We don't even have to talk anymore because I've done my good to you. Or I could be, go to the nursing home and help somebody, or go to a cancer place, or go to, a place for children that need help. I can be helping them because I want to help them, but at the same time, I'm like, in my heart, you can't see, look at me, or look at what I'm doing. I'm doing this because I do love these children, but at the same time, I love me too. So within us, we want to do good, we always want to do good, and we're sweet for that, but we're uneducated naturally. We're injurious to one another naturally. The entire point of God's faith is exactly what Paul said. The law of the Spirit of life from Christ is come into me, and I am free from the law of sin and death. What is in us as living souls is the law of sin and death. Just because we're living souls, that doesn't mean that that's the end. The fact that we're living souls is actually, should be motivation for us to not just be living souls, but the first Adam was made a living soul, the last Adam was made a quickening spirit. That means, even though we are living souls, we have a spirit, or another word for spirit is mind. Quickening is regeneration, or recovery. We have a mind to recover while we're living souls. In that way, as living souls, we can do all things purely from a higher standpoint, not to just benefit self, but as we're helping another, taming self at the same time. So that's what it means. That's what perfecting and performing personal religion is. Personal, inward, because God's faith is personal, inward. Or tragedy that is us, is not physical. There's nothing I can put on to make me feel better. There's nothing that I can listen to that can make me feel better. I can put up the noise to my TV all night to hide from what I think I am. At some point, I gotta go to sleep and everything's gonna be shut off and my thoughts are gonna destroy me. So, developing what is in you, it's a process that involves patience and temperance, but at the same time, consistency and being diligent to get to the root of what is you, to heal what you are for what you should be and for what you can do.
Wow, that was a lot.
So
That's very That's very insightful. A lot just was really clicking in my head as you said that. How does a person who because of course, just like you said, we know we are benevolent, we want to help each other. How does a person get over there? They're looking at what it's gonna do for as far as their image or something when they do when they go out and do acts of kindness. Because I know it really takes away from the act when you do it for look at me rather than this person is being helped. How does a person get past that?
They can't without first being kind to themselves. And kind, although it may seem like, soft and warm and like with a pillow, kind is actually causing a wound to your heart.
Really?
That's what self-possession is. That's what self-love is. Love is pain. And you can't do anything, we can't do anything without experiencing pain or loss of self. The more pain and loss of self I experience, the more pain and loss of self I don't want you to experience. So when I do something for you, it's not because, man, I want to make, I just need to do this so that like my own goal and ambition can be fulfilled by him and at the same time help him. It's, man, I've been dead and I want to help him so that he doesn't have to be dead. What can happen will happen, what will be gained will be gained, but it doesn't mean anything comparable to what is inside of this person. So in order to get past that, we actually have to get past self. And to get past self is the issue. Because
Right.
we are our own problem. When we can get past ourselves and actually fight to educate self, because that's what this book is about. It's just a book of education.
Of course.
It's just educating self
Absolutely.
by right principles that exist outside of self, above self.
Mm-hmm.
Because what is in self is always going to kill self. I can't do a damn thing for me. I can't think that I can help myself. I can't think that I can even listen to somebody else and implement what someone else tells me. I'm not built like that. Human beings aren't built like that. We're natural creators. Meaning, even though we don't have the ability to shape our own sphere directly, the way that we think and the way we process things will affect how we act externally. And it's cool to, as a positive way to put that positively,
Mm-hmm.
but true positivity can't be really unleashed until negativity is felt and soul growth is experienced.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just basically what it is.
Right. You have
To get past that,
right.
experience soul negativity, soul pain. That's what we naturally hide from.
Right. I think I read somewhere too that if to fear pain is to fear life itself. Mm. What is what are some of the most important points you think anyone looking into the book should take away, stuff that they can apply to their life and then help them at least take that first step into moving forward towards perfecting and reforming their personal religion?
I'll say taking what you learn personally in scripture and applying it for wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
because that's just the main thing. All of the proverbs are about handling knowledge or handling to gain. True knowledge isn't book learning. Book learning is just memorization.
Mm-hmm.
Knowledge is handling, digging deep and searching. So what I always tell people is, they always ask me like, where did you start, or what did you do, or what did you like? How do you go about this? And the main thing is, I just tell them to just pick up and go. It doesn't matter where you open up to.
Mm-hmm.
If you open up to with a heart that is sincere and trying to learn something, wherever you open up to and just go, you will take away something. And whatever you take away, just remember to apply it slowly and patiently. And that's kind of what I would say.
Wow, sorry about that. That caught my attention for a little bit. Got sidetracked. But I'm sorry. Could you say the last point one more time?
Wisdom,
Oh yeah, to pick it up. Yeah.
using eternally what you get from personally or privately reading scripture
Mm-hmm.
to gain wisdom from it. To gain a store of knowledge to apply.
Right. Oh yeah.
That's what makes it. That's what makes it real and true to the heart.
Mm-hmm. It has to be something that you not only just you read it and you memorize it, you hear it, but you have to really like internalize it and then
because that's how it goes. I mean, these people, most
Mm-hmm.
are out there that I've come across, reading to just be reading and thinking that what is written is actually what it means, when that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing that is written in scripture is what it says. I'm not even lying. Nothing is what it says.
Mm-hmm. The whole Bible.
Nothing is what it says. In order to get it,
Mm-hmm.
is to personally study and experience. There's context and language in everything. And in context and language of scripture, as you go about in learning, you get to put things in perspectives and you see what's in its right place, what its right context is. You get to learn how it is mistreated publicly and to return back what is supposed to be meant into its right place or context. And what is written has a completely different meaning. God is a living God because he's the God of knowledge, and by him actions are weighed. What that means is that when we treat what he's saying as simply something to just do it because he says it,
Mm-hmm.
we're calling him ignorant. And we're calling our own religion ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually expressing that we don't believe in the God of the Bible. We actually believe in a tradition, or as I said before, we think of our mother and father connected to whatever we know concerning the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever we know concerning them, we have, because received from them, we keep it, we think we're good, or we think we know what we know, but all it is just an image of some kind of relayed perception without any actual fact, proof, or science behind it. And that's what digging and everything this, that, and the other is about, because God is a God of knowledge. Nothing of him is lame. His understanding is infinite. To say that by a traditional understanding that's it, is to call him dumb, like she used to call the God that we profess to serve to be dumb, is to call him lame, him having no power to create, and it's actually to retard our own human being, saying that we do not have anything in us to do anything more within ourselves to think or to feel.
Just follow directions.
And that's what I'm trying to get at, to remind people you are more than a tradition.
Do you think that, if traditional churches, were presented with your ideologies and the things that you're living, you think they would accept? No.
The last man who tried to do this got crucified.
You're right. You're right.
And a bunch of others
were
burnt alive.
Right. How do you see that being resolved? How do you see, everybody finally being allowed to, think for themselves and get the truth? In the end, because of course, justice prevails. What's right is right. So, how in the end do you see this war and spiritual warfare?
As long as we are here, because we live on a fractured creation. And I'll say error is not bad, because, the serpent was a beast whom the Lord created. If error was bad, something would have been done. But the lesson is that we need wrong so that there can be minds out there to do something and to say something, to confront or to conflict with what is fact. If we only had right, we wouldn't be anything. If we only had wrong, we wouldn't be anything. But there needs to be some kind of sly figure and some kind of sly doctrine and some kind of sly religion in order to allow our cognitive processes to understand what is right and what is not right. We have a mind to develop, and when we develop it, we'll see what is real religion and what is false religion. Real religion isn't just wholeheartedness or tranquility without any kind of moral uprightness. Real religion isn't moral uprightness without any kind of mental activity, and especially mental activity from our Creator. We have to know that we have a Creator. We don't know that we have a Creator. We don't know. We don't know that we are creations. We don't know that we have a Creator unless we sit down and let Him create us. Creation isn't physical anymore. Creation is inward, and inward creation is by the implementation of certain principles and laws given by the living God for us. When we follow them, we'll know He's our Creator. When we know He's our Creator, then that's the answer to your question. Tradition will come to an end. But until there's a motivation, a real motivation, which can't be gained publicly, has to be gained individually until individuals privately care for themselves. So the issue really is, how do you get someone to care about themselves enough to stop hurting themselves? When that can happen, then the war will be done.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Definitely want to, take the time to ask you too, what are some things that you want to, what's some advice do you give to anybody who is an author that's, coming into, this career, this field? What are some things that you've experienced and seen that you think they will experience or they'll learn from, or, what are some things that...
Any author, or?
Right, yeah, any author.
Okay.
And then, especially also anybody in going into, self-help and, personal spirituality and things like that.
One thing I would say is any kind of author fiction, I'll say fiction is not about escaping reality, it's about plunging into it.
Mm.
So if you're a fiction author, don't escape reality, plunge into it. Because the more that you plunge into it in a creative way, the more that you can actually help bring out something for someone else to see, and maybe even solve a problem that isn't actually in reality. For someone in my room of self-help, I would say be what you are saying and go through everything that you need to go through. But for someone self-help with God's principles, I would say die first and then understand what everything He's trying to implement in us by His will means, so that you're just not helping selves, you're helping souls. For example, the movement Black Lives Matter,
Mm-hmm.
and Blue Lives Matter,
Mm-hmm.
Purple Lives Matter, trash. Lives don't matter, souls matter. When souls can begin to think of other souls,
Mm-hmm.
it won't matter what a variation of racial preference means, because souls matter. And souls only matter as the mind matters. And the mind can only matter if the heart has an emotional connection to care. Heart only has an emotional connection to care if the person is actually moved to do something, to see something in themselves that needs help. So for someone in my road, I would say die first. Because I've got like some companions that, they want to like go out and I'm preaching this, that, and the other, and the one thing I always tell them is just remember you're a patient and you were retarded enough that God allowed you to see something in you to stop the retardation in you.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what it is. I'm not saying anything that I'm saying because I have more knowledge than anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying what I'm saying because I recognize how retarded I am naturally. And it was because of that I needed help, like,
Mm-hmm.
not naturally like, physical Down syndrome, but Down syndrome in the heart, in my character,
Right.
and in my mind. So see that first, get that down, and then you'll be able to serve people better.
Mm. All starts within. Is there, anything that you especially love to, to touch upon for the audience and, people that will be watching?
Smile,
Smile.
That's how, treat every day like it's not your last day, but it's your first day of life. Meaning it's your first day of thinking better. It's your first day of doing better, of comprehending better, of acting better. Not acting as in the act, but implementing something you've taken away. Do better than you did last week. Do better than you did 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
And treat every day as if it's the first day of life. New breath in the mind.
New breath in the mind. Wow, Linwood, thank you very much for stopping by today, to go over the book and everything. It's been this conversation has been a journey. I didn't speak much because everything we were just saying is just so applicable.
I kind of hate myself talking. I really don't like. I really don't like talking. I really like just being quiet and just.
That's perfectly fine.
I don't like talking like that.
It's fine because this is what it's about. Everything that you're saying, is in here. This same mind created this same book. So it's great that people can come in and really hear you, speak about everything that you experience, see your perspective and your viewpoint, and understand why, when they dive into this book, why it's shaped the way it is, how to apply things, and you raised so many good points in so many different areas. If anything, it's on my part. I could barely even stop to grasp where certain things were going. You've definitely just really took down a lot of mental mental blockages, mental stops in my mind, and and just started, helping me see things in a lot of different ways. And I hope, I trust.
That's what I hope. That's really what I'm about. Just to do something good, like because then it affects the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And emotions play a big part in education. If there's no emotional attachment in some fashion, nobody will care to learn anything. Emotions mean something, but at the same time, emotions need to be cultivated and reared. So that's what it's really about. Rearing, training up our thoughts and feelings to better affect our society as a whole. And that's what I hope to get across. You can't do that constraining thoughts and hearts to what is already out there. Predetermined outcomes from religion are trash. They were trash now, they're trash then. The entire New Testament scriptures, every one of Paul's letters, every one of Peter's letters, it's about correcting Christians.
Mm-hmm.
Christians perverted what the apostles taught.
Right.
And there hasn't been anybody recently to do anything about that. And it begins with just settling down and taking what you know, because what you know, that's valuable, that's precious, that's an emotional attachment to you.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do away with it, but refining what you know.
Fine. Whatever.
And that's the point. Refining what you know. It's not about changing your personality. Righteousness isn't some kind of outward show. Righteousness is, by definition of scripture, is an act. It's surgery, is what righteousness is. Surgery, that's the true definition. Surgery of heart and mind. That's what I preach or try to get across.
Mm-hmm.
And this righteousness isn't nothing we can do. This is what the entire Bible religion is. This is what God wants to do for us. And this is how you know that the God of the Bible is a living God separate from the gods of what's going on out here. By allowing him to capture us, to do in us what he hopes to do for us. But that's the problem. The problem is will. We don't want to be submitted to another's will. We want our own will. We want to be what we want to be. We want to think what we want to think. We want to be comfortable in that. And that's the issue. Not all will want to submit their will to a healthier will.
Mm-hmm.
But for those who will, I hope to speak to, and I hope to reach out to, and to care for, and to strengthen.
Linwood, I just like to, for the audience members, whoever would, have any questions, or whoever would be diving into your book, if they ever needed to reach out to you, where can they reach out to you at?
Actually, in my book, my email's in my book.
Mm-hmm.
So right there in the copyright page, my email's there.
Mm-hmm.
If any questions, anything, if you want to email me, I'll leave you my phone number. I'll give out through the email, or if they want to contact me, just reach me by my email. It's right there in the book.
What could you say for the audience right now?
My email?
Yes, sir.
My name, Linwood Jackson at hotmail.com. So just anything, I don't care what it is. I've answered or heard or experienced a decent amount of stuff. So whatever it is, I'm happy to talk about it, or to not even talk about it. Just listen to you, or whatever. I'm there. So just email me, and I'm there.
Thank you very much.